right, Gramps. It appears that we are live and back at it again. And you are up here visiting with us this week. For those that don't know us, this is my dad, Grumps. I am Big Daddy to my grandchildren. Grumps has a 50 years in the automotive world as a tech. Has an ASE master, over 20 years in the fleet maintenance. I have 30 plus years as a tech, ASE master, and started out in equipments, moved to heavy truck, then to the fleet maintenance for over 20 years, and now I fix buses, and I'm also work on an automotive fleet. So 2025, Gramps, has been a pretty rough year, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's indeed.
And when I say rough year, I am talking about the number of recalls and engines that we have seen lost and through the automotive manufacturing. There have been 5 million engines recalled in 2025 alone. From GM, Toyota, Honda, Stellantis, which if you're not familiar with Stellantis, that's Chrysler Ram, and Nissan. Specifically with the GM, I'm sure everybody's heard about the 6.2 with the connecting rod and crankshaft issues. They're saying that it's a machining issue with surface finish. Isn't that what they said?
Yeah.
Surface finish. Toyota coming in with, they're saying machining debris was left in the engine. Honda with improper surface finishes on the crankshaft and possibly defective bearings. Stellantis admitted that there was casting sand left in the blocks. So I mean, what's going on? You can't even buy anything that's going to last anymore. What were some of the other causes that we came across, Gramps? Do you remember?
No.
No,
we talked about a lot of stuff.
we did talk about a lot of stuff. Remember we talked about engines running hotter and they're running tighter tolerances,
right?
Using thinner oils, 0W20s, 0W16s, and Toyota wanting to run what, 0W8?
Yes, they do.
And they're doing this in an effort to reduce emissions. They're trying to make more power. Trying to get better fuel economy. Well, it's coming at a cost. And the cost is the engine longevity. It's costing the ability for an engine to be able to last any length of time. And let's see if we can do this. I wanted to share a screen with you. If I can find... Let my fingers do the walking here. Let's do this right here. Yeah, let's share that screen right there. You've got, this is where I was getting that information. It said to meet fuel economy emission targets, modern internal combustion engines operate on razor-thin margin. Manufacturers have pushed machining tolerances tighter than any point in history, while pairing those with designs for the ultra-low viscosity oils. They go on to talk about the thinner oils, how they help improve parasitic losses and have better thermal efficiencies, but they have no tolerance or margin for any inadvertent contamination that ends up being in the engines. In your older engines, small amounts of these residual debris were able to be absorbed. The oil would handle it. The bearing surfaces would handle it a little better. But what they're saying now is anything that gets in there, it says, will disrupt the hydrodynamic lubrication almost immediately, accelerating wear on the crankshaft journals and bearings and connecting rods. And once it starts, it ain't going to stop. It's just going to keep going until your engine is destroyed. We were watching a video the other day, and I just screw up. I think I did. No, let's see. I think that's it right there. There we go. We were watching a video the other day by the Motor Oil Geek, Lake Speed. I don't know if you're familiar with him. It's a good channel to check out. Check out the Motor Oil Geek. You watch all his stuff when he puts it out.
I try to.
I know I do. But he put one out that's really timely to our live today. He put out, I think, yesterday or really recently. And he was talking about how they kind of inadvertently came across what was going on and how to make engine components last longer. So I have that video queued up. Hopefully we can get that to play without any fanfare, song, or dance. Let's see. Let's go in here. I think that's it right there. Nope, that's not it. Of course not. There we go. Have to bear with me. I'm a mechanic. I'm not a technical guru. So we're going to let this play from this point right here, if it will.
Needle bearing roller lifters. Our manufacturer of those needle bearing roller lifters said, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" We're very curious as what do we do wrong? And no, you didn't do anything wrong.
What's going on?
Why are your lifters living twice as long as all of your competitors?
There we go.
And we had to do some digging and understanding, ask those guys a bunch of questions. And what we came to realize was that at Joe Gibbs Racing, we used the same dyno and the same procedure to break in both the flat tappet engines and the roller cam engines. So we were doing a cam break-in on a roller cam, even though you didn't really need it. And the key thing here is this. It wasn't that we did a 30-minute cam break-in necessarily that made the lifters live longer. It's the fact that we used the break-in oil that was designed to break in the flat tappet cams. And of course, what did you do immediately after doing the cam break-in? You changed the oil. So before that engine, that roller cam ever saw the racetrack, the oil had been changed 3 times. Because Speed Diagnostics has taken used oil samples from vehicles with as little as a couple hundred miles on them, all the way to several 100,000 miles on them, we have a pretty unique data set that gives us an insight to engine wear versus engine mileage. Now, we've covered this in previous videos. The most amount of normal wear that will ever occur in an engine is during engine break-in. For all you flat earthers out there that don't believe in engine break-in, that think engines are broken in from the factory, I hate to break your heart, but here's the data that proves you wrong. We see higher levels of wear during engine break-in, which can take up to 10,000 miles to happen. All
right, we're going to stop it right there. That is what he was talking about, is getting the oil out to remove all the break-in metals, to remove any of what might happen to be the sand, what might happen to be the machining debris. You get it out early. You get it out early and often. They go through, and like you said, before that engine ever saw the racetrack, the oil had been changed 3 times. So most likely any of the contamination got flushed out really quick before it had a whole lot of time to do any damage. We talked about, Gramps and I did, about things as they went back in the day. He's got a few more gray hairs than I do, so he got to see things way back when. We've got owner's manuals around here from cars, and have cars going back all the way to 1954. And Gramps went and did a little looking and a little research on what was recommended for oil changes back in the day. And what did you find, Gramps?
Anybody that can tell that, if you're watching and you can answer this question, I'll give you the answer at the end of the video. But the 1954 Ford 239 Y block engine that was in this particular Ford, what was the manufacturer's recommended oil change what was the mileage that it was to be changed. And like I said, at the end of this video, before we go away, I'll tell you what it was. If you want to put a guess in there, that'd be great. But for a 64, he has a 64 Comet as well with a 260 engine in it. And at the time, the manufacturers were recommending between 3,000 and 5,000 miles between oil changes, depending on, as always, if you look in your owner's manual, it says driving conditions, and they give you a list of harsh conditions, and they give you a list of not harsh condition. And that's how you change the oil. That's where they come up with 3,000 to 5,000 miles, depending on what conditions you drive it under. And all the owner's manuals I've ever looked at describe what those conditions are. Now we got an 81 Datsun 210. I didn't write down the engine that was in it. It's a 4-cylinder. You 10 W30.
It was the 1.4 or 1.5 series, A series engine.
I think it's a 1.4. I think I read that. Anyway, the same thing with that, 3,000 to 5,000 miles. But the thing about the Datsun, and I know this to be true about the Toyotas in that time frame in the 80s and before, that the first oil change, that when you bought one of them, they would tell you, bring the car back. We need to change the oil at 1,000 miles, and it'll be free. It won't cost you anything to get it done. I know for a fact that Datsun and Toyota did that. First oil change, 1,000 miles. That was from the manufacturer. And then 3 to 5 after that. Most of the time, we tried to get them to come in on 3,000 miles. And they held up really well. And the next vehicle we got is a 2008 Nissan Pathfinder with a 4.0 6-cylinder. They say use synthetic 5W30, full synthetic. You can use 1030 or 1040 if the temperature stays above 0 degrees. So probably a 530 is the best overall until you get into the over 100 degrees. But we, down here where we are in the South, some days it'll be close to 100. It's not like you live in the desert. Where if you lived out in Arizona in the desert where it was 100 degrees every day for months on end, you want to look at that oil change a little differently. Look in the owner's manual or look it up online. So the only one I didn't tell you about is a 54 Ford. If you can guess that at the end, before the end, I'll give you the answer at the end of the video, what they recommended for 54 239 Y block from the manufacturer as far as oil changes are concerned. Now, all this started, or didn't all start, some of it started when I looked up online what's the future of the automobile, just using AI, a Gemini on Google. And it came back with an answer that basically that the manufacturers appear to be backing away from right now is electric. But one day they'll improve, they're predicting that they'll improve the battery technology to the point where there won't be any more ICE engines. But I can't see that. It'll be a long time, I feel sure, because they're more and more oil drilling everywhere you look. So, and service stations, they're building, if there weren't building so many service stations with gas pumps, they was putting them up with all electric charging stations, I'd understand, but it's kind of hard to believe that gasoline's going away anytime. If you look around in our area, there's a lot of new gas stations. So I don't know. We'll see. Somebody will. I probably won't, but my grandkids and great grandkids will see that.
They will get to see it. Chances are, I don't think that I will see. We've already seen some electrification of our of our vehicles, and we see them. I see them every day, everywhere. But as far as widespread use of them being able to go across the country, we're not seeing that just yet. You have to really plan your trips out if you're going to try to take an electric. What was one of the other things that you had noted on some of those oil change intervals? You didn't mention the oil change interval on your 2008 Pathfinder that you own. And we try, before we do that, we try to source and get this information from actual books and information that we have on our own vehicles, and stuff we can have in our hands to actually validate the information that we're given. So
yeah, on the oil changes and the mileages and the oil weight and all that are read off over here to you came from the manual. We got a manual for every one of these cars that I mentioned. Owner's manual telling you what to do and when to do it. So you ask about the
interval on your
interval on the if you want to keep it going, the 2008 Nissan from in the manual it says 3,750 miles. Change the oil every 3,750 miles if you want to get the best longevity from the vehicle. So even though this is 2008, they're saying the same thing we said back when I first started was change the oil, change it often. They're still saying that same thing today, even on that. He's got a 2024 Lexus. It's the same thing, 5,000 miles or 6 months. And if it comes up to coming up on 6 miles and he's only put on 4,000 miles, they said 6 months, change it regardless of what the mileage is. 6 months, don't go over 6 months before you change the oil. The sooner the better. In every case, it's been for years, change the oil on a regular basis. Not very many miles.
Now, with that said, what you're seeing produced a lot of times is there's a lot of companies out there that are saying, oh, you don't have to change the manufacturers. Oh, you can go 10,000 miles on an oil change. You're fine. You won't have any problems. Wrong. That is wrong. Excuse me. That is a wrong thought. There's only very limited ways that you can run 10,000 miles on an oil change. And that would be if you were in running 250 to 300 miles a day. You mentioned it earlier and mentioned that they say in the books that what extreme and severe duty is.
Yeah, it's always listed.
And it is. And people have in their mind what extreme and severe duty is. They think that running 300 miles a day on the interstate is extreme or severe duty when it is not. That is actually considered normal driving. And extreme severe duty is short trips, low mileage, and high idling. When you put your vehicle out on the interstate, you potentially can extend your oil changes because the way it works, and with getting the engine temperature up and maintaining your engine temperature through the life of the oil, it makes it last longer and it makes the oil operate like it's supposed to. Now, where were we going with that? We were going to say, we were going to talk about as if the recalls weren't bad enough that you go, well, maybe I'll just keep my old car and keep fixing it on down the road, and I'll just keep fixing my old car and won't worry about getting these new cars.
No, you can't do that.
Why not?
Well, probably not going to have manufactured parts, aftermarket parts.
That's correct. And just released an article the other day company called First Brands, and First Brands. There we go. We need to figure out which screen to share here. I have so many I want to share with y'all today. Let's see if we can find it. I have to forgive my coughing. I've got a little tickle I can't seem to get rid of. Let's see. First Brands bankruptcy. First Brands bankruptcy. Let's take and share that and see if that's actually the right page. I believe it is. We're not going to delve too deeply into all the minutia of all the financial misappropriation that went on. But First Brands Group is a major global automotive aftermarket supplier, and they filed for voluntary Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in the U.S. Bankruptcy Court in the Southern District of Texas on September the 28th, 2025. It turns out that there was some bad dealings by, let me go down here so if I can find his name. The leadership or CEO of the company, Patrick James, he resigned in October of 2025 and was succeeded by his interim CEO, Charles Moore. But what it turned out he was doing was borrowing money against assets that he actually didn't have. They were double posting assets so he could borrow more and more money, and then he started funneling that into his own personal accounts. And now you say, okay, so what's this got to do with me? Well, I'm fixing to show you what it's got to do with you. Let's swap screens here and let's share a different screen. And we're going to show you what that's going to mean. Let's see. I think this is the screen I want to share. This is what First Brands Group is. First Brands was Anco, Autolite, Bargman, Bulldog, Cardone, Carlson, Carter, Centric, Draw-Type, Fram, Fulton, Hopkins, International Brake Industries, Lubrifiner Filters, Michelin. Now don't get confused. That was not Michelin tires. That was Michelin wiper blades that they had licensed to make. Petroclear, Phillips light bulbs, Raybestos brakes, Reese Draw-Type, Strong Arm, shocks that hold your tailgate up. Technonosha, I don't know exactly what company that is, but Trico, Westbar, and Westphalia. These are companies that make many of your aftermarket lights, spark plugs, wiper blades, and, all the little stuff that keep your car going up and down the road. You got Cardone, which is one of the most major remanufacturing parts manufacturer out there. So we're kind of wondering what effect this is going to have on being able to buy aftermarket parts. It's yet to be seen, but you might want to keep a close eye on it because it's going to could potentially mean that you're going to be having parts supplier problems. You're going to have cost is going to go up on these parts, and who knows if some of these companies are even going to come back. What do you get there? Technology. Where that one is, he looked it up. It is for a trailer braking company. They make the brake controllers for your trailer brakes.
That GMC you got out there?
Yeah, Old Blue we own.
It's got one of those on it because I put it on.
Okay, all right. I
knew the name sounded familiar, but
all right.
That's what it is.
Okay, so ability to safely stop your trailer and have trailer brakes. Yeah, what this means is that this company is in danger, and it's going to mean that potentially your parts availability can go down and the costs can go up. So just you want to keep a close eye on all of that. And we have also discussed recently amongst ourselves your right to repair.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you have seen written? You've kind of been keeping me up to speed on that.
Yeah, it's just there's the manufacturers have been accused of, and they keep saying, no, we're not doing that, but we'll see. They're trying to get legislation passed through the government, passing a bill, make it where they don't have to supply an individual like me or you or anybody that buys a new car won't be able to get the information to repair the car themselves. And they want to limit it to the independent shops. And you know what that would do to a lot of independent shops, put them out of business or cripple their business a lot if they couldn't get the information to repair the car. And
even when they do offer it to an independent shop, they're making it to where it's cost prohibitive for them, for a really small shop, to even be able to get the information.
Yeah. And they but what they want to do is make it, it's been rumored, they keep denying it, that they're trying to get them to pass legislation. If I were to hack into the car and try to fix it myself, then it's you could go to jail for stealing proprietary information, with from 3 to 5 years, jail sentence. You know, like I said, but they said, no, we're not doing that. We're just trying to protect cybersecurity and making the car safe. And it's all about safety and security and yada, yada, yada. Where it is, it's to force them back to the dealer, people back to the dealer.
It's to force people back to the dealer to have to use the dealership. I do have a short article where it talks about that. Let's see if we can get that pulled up. Let's see and I just put this search in so I could, I was like, well, how are manufacturers trying to keep us from doing it? And it was, they're going to do it with software and encryption. Cars are now, they're computers on wheels, numerous electronic control units, requiring manufacturer-specific software for diagnostic updates and even basic functions, making them inaccessible to DIYers. Excuse me. Proprietary tools and scanners. Accessing vehicles' data or resetting symptoms often require expensive dealership-only diagnostic tools or subscriptions-based licenses, locking out independent shops and owners. System-level locks. Replacing parts like a battery or brakes can trigger error codes, ABS and stability control that only a dealer's tool can calibrate, adding cost and complexity. Hidden and integrated components. Engines are often covered and components are deeply integrated, making physical access difficult and making them out of plastic so that they break easy during removal. They're going to have restricted parts and information. Dealers may refuse to sell parts or necessary repairs to individuals, and some parts are only available through authorized channels. So I have actually seen some of that firsthand when I was with FedEx and we worked on some of the Mercedes Sprinter stuff. They, if you say, for instance, we would have to replace a NOx sensor. You would have to go in and log in with Zentry software. Having to remember all this stuff. It's been a couple of years since I even did any of it. But you would log in with the Zentry Mercedes-Benz approved scanning software. That system you would then take and backlog and go into the Mercedes. It would log into the server in Germany. And at that point, you could register that NOx sensor to the vehicle. And then and only then would that NOx sensor begin to work and do its thing. And then and only then could you clear the code after you had registered that sensor. But some of the other things that they have, and Gramps kind of gave a little pushback on, was
battery.
Yeah. And I actually kind of understand the battery. The only problem I have with the battery is that if they make you use proprietary software, it needs to be generic software. The whole reasoning behind the battery is as the battery ages over time, it changes the algorithm in which it's charged. It's in an effort to make the battery last longer. So I kind of get some of that technology, and I'm okay with that. Where I'm not okay is that you can't just say, okay, I put a new battery in and use generic software to be able to tell it it's got a new battery. I mean, you ought to be able to go on the dash and say, okay, I just installed a new battery, and tell it it's new. There should be no reason that you have to have proprietary software to change a battery. That is crazy.
Yeah, that should be part of the ECM recognize, hey, the voltage is different. So, or it would know that there's a problem with the battery, internally, just through the ECM.
Right. I mean, with today's cars, like you said, we're driving new computers. We're basically driving rolling computers. Why can't you set it with your steering wheel controls, or, like you do when you go in and you reset your oil reminder? Okay. You could go in, battery maintenance, installed new battery, click, and it reset the data. There's probably some reason behind that, but that there's some excuse that they're going to give you. But they're to have proprietary computers to reset for a battery, dumb.
No, it's just like you ought to be able to do it through the ECM, like you said, just by pushing a button on the steering wheel or
a generic scanner. And
yeah,
we're putting a battery in. We're not reprogramming or recalibrating injectors here. So let's see. What else had we? You were talking about the right to repair stuff and how they're trying to block us out. And you were talking about, you said, this is not just new to the automotive industry. It's been going on with John Deere
for a
while. So I
pulled any farmers out there would tell you that.
Yeah, right here. Found this article. It says that John Deere has been accused of blocking farmers from repairing their own equipment by restricting access to essential software, diagnostic tools, and repair manuals, forcing reliance on expensive dealership repairs and costing farmers time and money, leading to lawsuits from the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission, and the states. Ongoing legislative efforts like it's called I think the bill is called Warren's. The significant farmers' frustration over right to repair limitations despite company promises. The main issues were the farmers can't get full diagnostic software like Customer Service Advisor that dealers use, which hinders self-repairs. Monopoly power. The FTC lawsuit alleges Deere uses control to maintain a monopoly on repairs, creating dependency on their authorized network, which is it's going to increase your cost and your downtime when equipment breaks during critical times like harvest. Limited repairs lead to long waits and high cost, and costing farmers billions annually. Digitalization, modern tractors and complex computers, making software access crucial for even basic fixes. I've long said this. I understand our need to make sure that we're environmentally friendly and that we're not just randomly polluting the air for no reason. There's a list of vehicles that doesn't need this crap and doesn't need what we've done to ourselves. Stuff to get our food out of the fields. Fire and rescue vehicles don't need this stuff. Oh, hang on. We're going to have to let your building burn down while our truck regens. Police, military, all those vehicles that are emergency response and require, that the vehicle run uninhibited does not need this stuff. I don't know what
Well,
else to say.
A lot of times they use security as one of the reasons they're doing this. Well, it's not very secure when the police get in their vehicle and it stumbles and hesitates and won't go because of a problem where right now you don't need all that stuff. You just need something. When you stick the key in and turn it, you go down the road, put out a fire, stop a bad guy from hurting people or robbing a bank, or all those emergencies, those true emergencies that we have to deal with day to day.
Right.
You need to be able to respond to that. And it's not like these vehicles are running up and down the road continuously. They're being used in short bursts, everything except the police cars. And you could get them to where they don't pollute without all that stuff.
Correct. You just have to ask yourself, what have we done to ourselves in the name of saving the planet? Well, you're costing yourself thousands and thousands of dollars. You're going to leave crops in the fields for them to ruin, people to lose money, lose food. The list just goes on, and we just keep legislating ourselves into a hole on some of this stuff, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So,
well, I've seen some of these buses that were battery operated, the big buses like carry passengers, not be able to run because they run out of power, or they wouldn't recharge, or the batteries caught fire, or just a plethora of things going wrong that could be overcome with a little bit of common sense.
yes. Well, I was going to look something up, but I can't seem to get my fingers to do the walking. Like I said, we're mechanics. We're not technical experts here. Let's take a quick gander right here. Whoop. All right. Here's a quick one. Let's get this pulled. The first ones I pulled up right there. Thank you for staying with us and not allowing my ineptness to run you off. Let's take a look right here.
We're hearing a school bus is on fire. No children on the bus. Everyone got off the bus, including the driver. But you can see the smoke coming from it. This is in Sylmar. Rich Prickett overhead in Sky 5 HD with more on that for us.
It was 11 days ago.
Hey, Jessica, good morning. Yeah, we could earlier we could see a black smoke that was billowing out on both sides of the overpass here. As you mentioned, it appears to be a school bus that caught fire just under the overpass of the 210 freeway at Foothill. City Fire is here. They're putting a heavy stream of water on the fire. It looks like they made some progress here. We did see some active flame just moments ago. As you mentioned, there's no students reportedly on the school bus. There was one person that was treated here, possibly the driver of the school bus, but appeared to be suffering from.
Get hot enough to melt that overpass.
Yeah, they will probably have to inspect that overpass. Probably did. Oh, there we go. There's electric school bus fire. There it is. There's somebody with. I think that is the biggest wealth
creation engine to ever exist. Mm-hmm. Sadly, only a relative few.
Skip it.
This electric school bus fire in Los Angeles should be a wake-up call. The only reason this wasn't a mass evacuation nightmare is because the bus was nearly empty. You found stashed. I'm Pat, firefighter, mechanical engineer, and battery guy. This incident happened on December 10th, 2025 in Los Angeles, California.
December 10th,
and this bus couldn't have picked a worse place to fail. It decided to fail right underneath a freeway overpass.
It didn't say.
Now, realistically, any vehicle fire in a spot like this sucks. It traps heat. It banks the smoke down. But with larger vehicles, like a bus, it can also risk damage to the bridge itself. But since this was an electric bus, the batteries can complicate things even more. They're stubborn and they don't want to go out.
What he's saying.
This was a Bluebird bus, and the batteries are actually located between the frame rails. But remember, this isn't just a bunch of battery cells. It's a complete battery system. There's a battery management system, thermal management system, high voltage wiring, bus bars, power electronics. There's a lot to it. It's often hard to get into the specifics of the battery because I don't necessarily know the year of the bus that's burning, but I do get asked about chemistry all the time. It's NMC. Basically, most vehicles in the US use NMC batteries. The number of vehicles using LFP chemistry in the United States.
We'll zip through some of this to see if he, just to get back to some of the images of the fire.
Early on in the incident. It does appear the fire started under the bus, exactly where the batteries are located. And if you look at this clip, you can see the battery packs are venting. And look at the burn pattern as well. Now,
nothing left.
Could the fire have started elsewhere? Absolutely.
Because until you completely expend those batteries, they're going to continue to burn. So,
I can tell you a story about a friend of mine bought a motorhome that the battery for it wasn't electric.
One electric propel,
Right, no,
but the house batteries.
But he had some house batteries that ran those systems, lithium batteries, and they caught fire. And it was the first night they went out camping in it, and it burned to the ground. And he ran back in to grab the dog or the cat or something. He inhaled a bunch of that smoke. He wound up with pneumonia. He'd actually died from the pneumonia.
Oh, and he also, I remember you telling me this story. He also ended up with, he had some strange anomalies with his liver and his enzymes and a whole bunch of other crap, and it made him sick for several months, didn't it?
Yeah. Took a while to get him over it, but he finally, but his wife said he was talking about they were going to pay it off. The insurance was going to pay it off and give him another. And they said, no, you can keep it. We don't want it back. We don't want one back. We don't want a replacement. No, we're done with motorhomes. So
what did he do? Get a pull behind camper?
They just quit camping.
Just quit camping.
His wife said, I'm not going to anything again. Forget about it. Like to kill him and her,
Yeah.
They had
what if
just
they'd been
stepped
asleep?
They had just got set up good and put their lawn chairs out and were sitting out relaxing outside the motorhome. And all of a sudden smoke comes boiling out the front door. And he runs in there and he said it burned like that in a matter of probably 10 or 15 minutes. It was the whole thing was engulfed in flames.
Well, that tells me right there that and like you said, that was not even propulsion batteries.
No,
that was just
regular battery,
lithium-ion house batteries, and burned his motorhome to the ground. So,
yep, brand new. It's like picked it up, went camping, and then
when you have it seems like when you have problems with those batteries, you don't have minor problems. They go major. So they work good until they don't.
Yeah, it's they got a ways to go with that.
Well, I don't know what direction that the automotive industry is going to go. I don't know what we're going to do. I do know one of the things that we learned recently, if you're buying a new car and you want it to last, what Motor Oil Geek said is within about the first 500 miles or less, drain the oil. Drive it about another 1,000 miles or so, maybe a little further. Drain and change the oil again. And you need to do that several times for like the first 2,000 to 3,000 miles. Do all rapid oil changes, change them, and then once the engine is considered broke in, you can go do the 5,000. He even said you could probably do the 10,000 mile oil changes. Extending them won't hurt anything once the engine is broke in
and clean
and kept clean. Yes. There's a lot of information out there. that's telling you that you've got to get through the break-in period, get that oil out, and make sure that the oil stays clean, especially through the break-in period. These manufacturers now are not recommending like they used to back when you were telling us a little while ago. Come back into first 1,000 miles, we'll get that oil out. That was your break-in period.
Well, all of them back then were doing Toyota and Datsun, particularly because the imported cars were saying that over even the American-made cars. But the overseas cars were telling that because I worked on them and I knew other people that worked around them. Because when I first started, nobody wanted to work on them. None of the other mechanics, I don't want to wear this metric. Well, everything nowadays is metric. So, but what got me to zero in on working on Toyota so much is I was there at a Pontiac and Toyota dealership where I started. And it's a guy that traveled from up north to come down in the summertime, wintertime, and he'd come down and work in the south. And then when it got hot, he'd go back to the north. He went between Michigan and between Mississippi. He told me, he said, go over there and look at that Pontiac, got that 400 engine on it. He said, pull the head off of it. The head weighs more than the whole engine in that Toyota. Head off that Pontiac weighs. He said, you can pick that head up off that Toyota by yourself. He said, you have to get some help to get that big old cast iron 400 head off Pontiac and then get the intake out of the way. It was a lot. He said, you'll find you're not working as hard because the stuff is so much lighter. And he was right. And that's so when I found that out or listened to him and started figuring out how those things work, it was a lot easier to work on those Toyotas than it was the Pontiacs. Because the Pontiacs, like I said, they were American iron, baby. They were heavy.
Yeah. And the pay was the same.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right. Well, I think we have just about expended our time here today. We are coming down to the end, and we have the 1954 Ford engine oil change interval. Nobody ever came into the comments. Everybody must be having Christmas parties or hanging out with family. Didn't come in here and comment with us today, but we will give the answer to that question. What was the oil change interval for a 1954 Ford with a 239 Y block? What was it, Gramps?
1,000 miles.
1,000 miles.
Every 1,000 miles. And there was a lot of reasons for that. Not the least of which was they didn't have an oil filter. But
some didn't have an oil filter.
Yeah.
And what was one of the other reasons?
Well, the oil was just blended different. It had waxes and stuff in it. It would build up if you didn't change it,
Yep. The old paraffin-based oils.
Yeah. So there was a reason for that. But even back then, they knew the importance of got to change the oil. Every 1,000 miles, change oil. So that's been the reason. I believe the reason, like say between Nissan and Toyota, they recommend, or you hear it say you don't have to change the oil. The manufacturers don't recommend it, but you hear people saying you don't have to change your oil to 10,000 miles. The reason they do that, if Toyota told them the truth and said you really need to change it at 1,000 miles and then no more than 5,000 miles a couple of times, they would, and the Nissan dealer was saying, oh, our car, you can change oil over 10,000. Well, they're going to sell more than Nissans for the 10,000 mile oil change when Toyota's telling them the truth about change it on a regular basis, get it cleaned out. It's about trying to sell cars. that our engines are better. Well, if you look at the news today, you can easily see that their oil change intervals aren't working because they're losing too many engines. Just because the ones that I'm familiar with have been because of debris of some sort in the engine, destroyed the engine. So
you've got to get
change oil.
You've got to get the bad oil out. It's not bad oil. It's contaminated oil. It's got to be gotten out of the engine, or over time you're going to wear your engine out. Just plain and simple. And I don't care if you're using the magic AMSOIL, almighty powerful AMSOIL. If you don't change it, it's still dirty. Sorry, it just is. So, from the Real World Garage, Grumps and myself, wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope everybody has a prosperous and wonderful 2026. We're going to keep doing what we do. We've got a couple little projects coming up here on the horizon. Here in the next day or two, here on Gramps', we're going to
be looking for some video.
That's it. We're going to be installing and reviewing a backup camera on his 2008 Pathfinder. They actually had the option for it back in the day, but his never had it, so we're going to install an aftermarket one. And probably going to put some sideboards on it, step boards. Don't know if we're going to do a video on that, but we're going to be doing that. And what else? There's anything else?
Well, we're going to do it. There's a couple scratches on the roof.
Oh, yeah.
They was going to try.
He's got some rusty metal on the roof we're going to try to get in hand before it gets out of hand.
Well, we was going to try two different rust inhibitors.
Correct.
Side by side, so we can say, well, we did this one, and which one held up the best.
And see which one holds up the best. So, be looking for those videos. Appreciate you coming by. Let's see. We did have at least somebody in here, blessed by God. And Merry Christmas to you. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate you leaving a comment. And until next time.
Keep them rubber side down.
Rubber side down.